Tim.Feddersen with Gaspar Insurance. I hope you're having a great day. As risk advisors and risk consultants and strategists, we wanted to bring one of our consultants, Justin Grooms, on that we work very closely with to kind of deep dive a little bit into the AB 257 here in California, the Fast Recovery Act, and go a little bit into it. We always like to be thinking ahead and what challenges are around the corner for our clients. So with that, I brought in Justin Grooms, who's a consultant who love to hear about your background and love to dive into this.
Yeah, so Assembly Bill 257 is one of these bills, like a lot, they're going to impact California business owners potentially. A little bit of background about me, I'm Justin Grooms, like Tim said. I run a company called Chariot Consulting. We do human resources consulting, organizational development, also some safety consultation. Most of our business is focused on small business owners, like yourself. We're advocates for small business owners, and trying to help them navigate some of the landmines that can be California employment. So that's what we do, and excited to be here and unpack some of this. And so this Assembly Bill 257, also known as the FAST Act, is something that has a potential to impact small business owners. Now, a lot of people will think that people who own fast food chains or fast casual restaurant chains aren't necessarily small business owners, but as you and I discuss often, if you are someone who had some money stashed away and you want to start a business, a good way to start a business is to buy a franchise. If you have that kind of liquid capital where you could just go buy, it's almost like a business in a box, right? So maybe you've saved up enough money, you've retired, and now you want to buy into another business. But most of these owner operators are this is their first business, probably their only business. So they don't own hundreds of chains, they own one. And so this bill has the potential to impact those small business owners. And so I think that's why it's important to kind of unpack it and talk about, what the potential impact is for small business owners in California.
Absolutely. Working with franchisees of all sizes, anywhere from one unit starting their first build out to 20, 30, 40 units that we work with clients in all of that space. And certainly as the units go up, people tend to financially be a little bit more profitable and a little higher tax bracket, for lack of a better term. But there's a lot of franchisees that we work with from day one that this is their dream to be a business owner, and they go all in on this. And so that's interesting, just to kind of see that those people are going to be affected, not just the CEO of McDonald's or the CEO of any of the national 1,000+ unit brands.
That's right. Yeah.
And Justin, what are the main goals or bullet points that the people who are advocating for 257, what is their goals?
That's a good question. Now, because I didn't put it in the legislation, I really don't know what the goals are. I'll tell you what, the way it's framed. The way it's framed is to make sure that every employee who works at one of these locations is given fair wages, fair working conditions, and have some say-so in how they go about their job. And I think that's great, but there's also a way to go about doing that stuff that's not necessarily overbearing for the business owner as well. I mean, you and I both work in California. We know some of the things that business owners have to do in order to be in compliance in the state of California, just to open their doors. We're also coming off of COVID, right, and all the regulations that had to go around COVID, which a lot of those regulations that were imposed were great and protected workers, but also put some business owners in a bind, right? And so I think the mindset behind this, again, I'm not 100% sure. There's unions that have backed this, and workers unions. I won't mention any specifically, but they say that the goal is to protect the worker. Right? So I think that's the main point.
Gotcha. No, absolutely. Yeah. And will this affect all brands, or can you clarify the 100 units? Is one thing that I do know about. What is that? How does that play into?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So essentially, this is going to impact, and that's why I said fast food chains or fast casual locations, which have 100 or more locations. Now, I think the question is, do those locations have to be in California or not? And the reality is they don't. They need to be, if you're part of a fast food chain, meaning you have similar branding and marketing and name, if there are 100 more or more locations nationwide, then this applies to you. So there could be a handful in California, but there are 100 across the nation or more. This would impact you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to give you an example, if you are running a Jersey Mike's franchise in California, you only own one, but obviously there are more than 100 Jersey Mike's locations across the nation. I'm pretty sure you would know better than me, but I'm pretty sure there are more than 100 Jersey Mike's locations.
They're doing well. They're doing well.
Yeah. Then that would impact you, right? On the other hand, let's say you're a business owner and you've bought up 20 locations of some fast food chain or fast casual chain that no one really knows about outside of the state of California. This would not impact you. So the disproportionate impact would be, the person who owns 20 locations of some off-brand doesn't get impacted by this, but the person who owns one location of a major franchise is going to really be impacted. So that's kind of the thing that's not really setting well with a lot of people.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. And one thing I want to go back to and ask you about is, with the goals of this, you and I talk a lot about culture and company culture, and I think that's something that we have a great culture here at Gaspar and our within our parent company at Foundation Risk Partners, which is really important. I've noticed though that a lot of times in my experience, when companies mandate a good culture or mandate these things that are going to make everyone happy, it doesn't actually work because it's a mandated, forced feeling. Do you feel this could backfire in that way? And talk about kind of if this weren't to pass, or if you had to combat this in some way, how would you do that from a culture standpoint?
Well, it's obviously already had some impact, because this law was actually signed into law by the governor back in September, and then there was a referendum that took place. There were over 1 million signatures on a petition to stop this from actually going into law, which has delayed it. Okay. So now it's going to end up on the ballot in 2024. So people are already seeing the impact. We're adults, right? And people who run businesses, like myself, and I will include myself in this. You probably started your business because you wanted to have some independence, but you also didn't want to be told what to do, right? So there's going to be some natural kind of pushback. Now, does that mean you don't have to abide by laws? No, of course. But yeah, there's a way to go about making sure that people do the right thing without forcing it on them. Now, sometimes you get to the point where you have to force people's hands. Right. I don't know if we're at that point right now, but this seems to be forcing the hands of a lot of small business owners.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go. Specifically, when you're trying to get someone to employ people, take care of themselves and take care of other people's families, and we understand the rising cost of goods, so if something like this passes, those costs are going to be passed on to the consumer as well.
Right.
One part of this bill is looking to raise minimum wage for certain fast food chains. That would be up to $22 an hour or more, and potentially a 3.5% increase every year after that, right? So someone has to pay those costs,
right? And
that's going to be the consumer.
Yeah,
eat a lot of fast food, but that's going to be those people buying fast food may be impacted. So it's a ripple effect,
right? Yeah. Well, and then the concern for let's say your brand is not affected by it. Yeah. You own you're an owner of 20 fast food restaurants, but single owner, we're staying well under that 100 number. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna have to compete with $22 an hour and almost a guaranteed 3.5% annual raise.
That's right.
So
it like I said, most of the time when legislation passes, it doesn't just impact one group of people. There's a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. So there's multiple people throughout that chain that are impacted by this. And this is potentially one of those bills. It not only, the idea is that you want to set working conditions, minimum hours or minimal hours worked, maximum hours worked. So you want to make sure that people aren't being abused in their work environment. But again, I just think there's a way to craft it, and I'm not sure. Again, without seeing exactly how this bill is going to materialize on the ballot, because it could be some changes. By the time it gets on the ballot in 2024. There could be some potential changes. So I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but as it reads to me right now, and again, this is a layman who's not an attorney, it just looks like it's going to be a bit overbearing for the individual franchisee.
Gotcha.
Potentially. You're going to have a council of 10 people who are going to essentially decide some of these things. Now, are they going to go out to each individual franchise and say, based on your store location, where you're located, all that good stuff, this is what's going to impact you? No, they're going to have a blanket, kind of agreement or blanket mandates that's going to impact everyone. It's going to be disproportionate, I think.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for kind of bringing in the pros, the cons, making it so that we can kind of understand this. Definitely want to, be a resource to anyone out there. Myself and Justin will have our contact information in the link below, to be a resource and just kind of explain the process. And again, how can we better manage and mitigate as much risk as possible, as well as help you build a successful business, even though this isn't maybe necessarily 1,000% what we do. How can we help in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah.